Manx Radio Sport.
Good evening and welcome to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. Rob Pritchard and the team with you once again for the next hour, taking a look to this weekend's sporting action on the Isle of Man and beyond. Coming up tonight, the first rounds proper of the Hospital Cup and Junior Cup dominate the agenda in Manx football this weekend. FC Isle of Man's manager says he and his team can't wallow in self-pity at their recent poor form ahead of returning to league action tomorrow night. We'll bring you the latest from day one of the 2025 Manx Rally. And in rugby, two Island sides are in Cheshire competition finals on Saturday, whilst Vagabonds and Douglas face off in the Old Firm in the Manx Cup. That's all to come this evening. Welcome back to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. Well, that beautiful weather has been persisting throughout this week. Not like we're complaining too much, and we'll be hoping it'll be staying the same way over the weekend because it's another busy schedule as the respective seasons start to enter their final chapters. Well, in the footballing side of things, of course, we are turning to Cup competition once again this weekend. The first rounds proper of both the Ascot Hotel Junior Cup on Sunday, and then before that, the first round proper of the Manx Quality Sheds Hospital Cup. A few big games in rugby as well, both on and off the island. And of course, we'll be seeing if FC Isle of Man can amend their dire run of form when they return to action tomorrow night. Let's turn our attention to the local footballing side of things first, and Tony Mepham joins us as always. And yes, Tony, very good evening, and we're hoping this weather just continues, don't we?
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the forecast for next week, Rob. It's not too good because I think it changes all on Sunday, and it's looking if we've got a bit of the wet stuff coming in Monday, Tuesday, possibly Wednesday, Thursday of next week. So hopefully it won't dampen any fixtures that we've got on, but certainly at the moment the clubs are rock hard. I've heard one or two clubs saying how they could do with a bit of water just to soften them up a bit. Well, you can't have the best of both worlds. You've complained since November about how much rain we've had. Now we're having the heat and it's lovely.
I was going to say, be careful what you wish for when it comes to the weather here. Okay, let's turn our attention to this weekend then. So, yes, dominating the schedule this weekend are two of the Cup competitions. We saw the preliminary stages of both the Hospital Cup and the Junior Cup last weekend. Now it's the turn of the first round proper. Let's take a look at Saturday. The Manx Quality Sheds Hospital Cup first round. All games kicking off at 2 p.m. Starting off over at Billygoat Park, Foxdale up against a Division 2 side in Governors Athletic this weekend.
And the Governors Athletic are in great form at the moment because when you look at the two results that they've had of late, that one against Bradham where they held them, pretty impressive that, and then last week against Ramsey Youth Centre beating them. So incredible form that they're showing, and Foxdale are just looking over their shoulders a little bit, aren't they, for that ECAP FA Cup on Easter Saturday, and well be it, because when you look at Foxdale's team that they've got, certainly the forward line, Lee Gale, you've got Jay Chatwood and Jason Charmer, probably the best forward line, I think, in this league because the three of them can score goals, the three of them can play football, and it's going to be something that Governors are going to learn from because I'm not saying that Foxdale are going to beat them comfortably, but Foxdale right the way through have looked pretty solid. Midfield, they work hard. Defensively, they've looked disciplined and organised, and then Andy Ball's been in great form in front of goal as well. But Governors have got their own sort of, how can I say, quality scorers. David Kay, one of them. And if he can get his shooting boots on and the rest of the team around them can hold nice and tight, then I think Governors Athletic could certainly put an imposing threat on them. Certainly in the first 45, but in the second half, that's where the Premiership sides usually shine through with the fitness. I'm going to go for Foxdale to go into the hat.
Speaking of Premier League sides, it's all Premier League affair at Glen Road. Laxey, they'll be hosting a Moran side, Tony, that I think certainly upset the odds last weekend. They stunned Premier League heavyweights Corinthians with a 2-1 victory at Memorial Playing Field. So Moran, although it's been a real tough season in the league for them this season, they'll probably feel that they have every chance of coming away with something this weekend at Laxey.
Definitely, and quite interested in the comment I got from Brewy, David Brew, the manager of Moran last week. We serve ourselves for the cup. So well done to him. But no, it's pretty impressive. But by all accounts, I was told Corinthians had 26 shots on target and scored 1. And Moran had 2 on target and scored 2. So I would say that the odds for Moran is pretty good in last week's game. But against Laxey, it's going to be a tough fixture. I think Laxey have certainly picked up a little bit of form. Johnny Palmer's team will be looking to see if they can get them to the final again. And against Moran, probably when they saw that draw, they think, yeah, we'll take that one. And, Laxey, when you look at Ethan Hall, he's been in there playing well. You've got Tom Cowan. I think Tom Kenny's fit this week, so if he comes in, that makes them stronger as well. And just all round, they've been creating chances, scoring plenty of goals, and I think that's the driving force for them, and that's why I'm going to go for Laxey to take the victory.
And at Mulliner Chloe, it's St John's United who beat St George's by 4-0 at home in the previous round up against a United, Tony, who just about managed to get themselves past Union Mills away from home.
Yeah, they did. It was tight, that Union Mills game, 4-3 again, but it's been that sort of story right the way through the season for Ayr and Union Mills. But St John's have got pretty well everyone fit, I think, because up front there'll be Callum Taggart. You've got Luke Murray, who just plays in behind him. And Dean Leese must start scoring goals shortly because he's been back and I don't think he scored yet. So I think Sam Brown's happy enough with his squad. Joe Savage as well in midfield. You've got Andrew Chadwick. They're looking strong. And then Sam Ingham at the back and then Sticks in goal. They look really good, St John's. But speaking to Jamie Callister midweek, and he said he's chuffed to bits at the moment with Ayr United. The performances that they're putting in, but more importantly, one or two key players who have come back in from injury, and they add something to the team. Jed Fisher being one. So they're quietly confident, with Sean Kelly back in that squad as well, that they can get that result over St John's. But it is a cup game. It could be tight on 90 minutes. I think it could go to extra time, this one. And still going to stick my neck out here a little bit and go for Ayr United to beat St John's, even though they're at home.
Very well, and we've got a Southern Derby as well, always a tasty affair. This one taking place at Castletown. They're going to be hosting Colby, who just managed to edge past Onken last week, 4-2 on penalties. Yeah,
it was tight, but when you look at this one, Castletown, Colby, forget the form book. The rivalry is unbelievable because they're not far away from each other. We'll forget what happened second game of the season, but when the game was played at Castletown Stadium, Castletown did a good job on Colby, and just wonder what sort of squad they've got out there. If Alex Crawley plays up front, then he'll add something to it because he's tricky to deal with. So Castletown have just got to keep sort of chipping away, but I just think that was a bit of a statement by Colby last week. They know their threats. Carl Hickey, Steve Collister are going to come through, and right the way through they've got good players in there, and I just got a funny feeling that Colby will take this at the end.
And up here next is a fixture, Tony. I know that I think it raised your eyebrows a little bit when the draw was made last weekend. You've got quite an interest in this one. It's the meeting of two champions because this season's Division 2 champions, Braddon, well, they're going to be hosting this year's newly crowned Canada Life Men's Premier League champions, Peel.
Definitely, and when this one came out the hat, I just, wow, what about this one? Because it's a good pointer for Braddon, because they're going to play Peel next year twice in the league, so they could just see how strong the Premier League is at the moment. Peel last week, Thomas Brown, again with 2 goals, one from the penalty spot, one from a really good football move on the left-hand side, but probably the one for me is, Matthew Wood's experience. You can see it right in there. Dan Pickering as well. Dan's not old, but he seems to have been around for ages and is commanding well in the midfield. I think Owen Dawson in goal now has really shown that he's, Peel's number one. I think he's looked really good at it. And I just feel that Peter Kenyik's happy enough with the squad that he's got in there at the moment. And even though Braddon, Peel have got to be careful of Liam Kane. There's no doubt about it because he's strong and he can mix it with the defence of Peel's. But it just depends how they deal with, Duncan Raid on that left-hand side. And I think they can because Izzy Dunn will probably play down there. He'll keep things nice and tight. He's a really good player. And I just don't see Braddon winning this one. I'm going with Peel.
Very well, and then a meeting of two Douglas sides over at Bella Fletcher, Douglas Royal. They'll be hosting Douglas High School Old Boys.
Yeah, I think Old Boys on this are happy enough to keep things running for them because to me it is between them and Ramsey Youth Centre to get that second place. But this is a cup game, and if they win this one, okay, there's no round of this cup next week because it's Easter, so it'll be the week after. But against Douglas Royal, Old Boys should fancy the chances here. I think certainly Robbie Ward will be in there and he'll cause problems. Jacob Stone up front. And then when you look at, right the way through that team, Martin King at the back, they've got a good spine. And that's something that Douglas Royal have got to sort of exploit. Jordan Cowan can do that. There's no doubt about it. He's probably Royal's top goal scorer at the moment. Simon also can play at the back really well. But Simon Dooley. But I just don't think Douglas Royal have got enough, even though it's at Royal. And I think the bigger pitch might just suit Old Boys a little bit on that fixture, and I'm going to go for them.
Very well. 2 more fixtures in the Manx Quality Sheds Hospital Cup first round this weekend. One of those is a meeting of 2 northern sides. We've got North East against North West here because Michael United of the North West will be hosting Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys. Yeah,
this could be a little bit closer, Rob, than some people think, because I know Ramsey Youth Centre have got a few missing over the Easter break here. They're back for the final, but they're not available, I think, possibly tomorrow, which we'll wait and see. But Michael United as well can sort of be, what can I say, proud of what they've achieved this season, I think, because they've held it all together for themselves. And if they did get past this one, what a sort of chance that would be then to be in that quarter-final. But against Ramsey Youth Centre, it's going to be difficult because everyone's playing for their place now for that final team on Good Friday. And that's why I'm going to go for Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys to win.
And the final game, the Hospital Cup first round this weekend, sees Ramsey up against Division 2 Pulrose United. And Tony, both these teams, in fact, are coming into the competition for the first time, having had byes in the preliminary round.
Yeah, it is. And I got a phone call last Sunday morning, it was, from Mo Powsland, just saying absolutely delighted with that one, because Mo's the main link at Pulrose, and he's kept everything together. And when they drew Ramsey, I thought he was going to tell me off for the draw, but he wasn't. He said, we're delighted because, as I've always said, Ballaclone's a great place to be. It's a great setting. They've just done the clubhouse up there, so well done to them. And Pulrose are up for this big time. It's going to be a tough game. I think, on paper, Ramsey are one of the top Premiership sides, but this year, now and then, it hasn't quite happened for them. But it probably goes down to, what team selection or what players they've had available. But I think Ramsey will prove a little bit too strong for Pulrose, certainly so as the game progresses with fitness level and with people like Dylan Pickles, and you've got Matthew Montgomery in there. You've got players there who sort of really good, experienced in it, and I think that'll be the difference, and I'm going to go for Ramsey to win.
Very well. Those are your Manx Quality Sheds Hospital Cup first round ties this weekend. Those getting underway at 2 o'clock. And of course, just a reminder as well, if the games aren't settled within 90 minutes, they will go to extra time and potentially penalties if required. Elsewhere on Saturday, just the one league game taking place. It's in the Canada Life Men's Premier League. Early kick-off at 1:45pm. And two sides Tony who've impressed at times throughout the season. St Mary's, who've been mixing it with the big boys up towards the top of the league. And a Russian United side that have been, well, I suppose, in resoundingly good form for much of 2025 so far.
Yeah, they have, and well done to Russian, because they had a torrid start. There's no doubt about that. And St Mary's didn't start the best, but then they've come together. Obviously, Chris Aspridge won't be available because he got sent off last week. But I thought a real determined and dogged performance after going down to 10 players against Peel after 15 minutes, and they managed to hang on until just towards the end where they conceded those 2 goals. But, fair play to them. And, the Bowl's a great, place to play. I'm sure Russian will be, champing at the bit to play down here. And when you look at the team that they'll probably have out there, then I think Russian might just sneak this against St Mary's. But it's one of those unpredictables. You don't know what squad St Mary's are going to have, but I'm pretty certain that Frank Jones is back. He wasn't available last week, and I just wonder, selection-wise, FC Alaman, if there's 1 or 2 players that might be able to come in and make St Mary's stronger. But it's going to be a tough one. But current form at the moment, it points to Russian, I think. Very well. There's a Saturday's fixture. Taking a look at Sunday, we have to take a look, of course, at the Ascot Hotel Junior Cup first round proper. Those games getting underway on Sunday from 2 p.m. Now, Tony, we will take people through the details of all the ties, but I just wanted to pick out a couple as well that may be standout ones, and one of them here in the west of the island. Now, Peel won an 8-goal thriller up against the current Combination 1 leaders Onken last week. An impressive result from Peel. The job doesn't get much easier for them though this week because they're coming up against another of the Combi 1 heavyweights, Russian United, but Peel must surely be full of belief. Full of belief, and I think they start as slight favourites in this one. If you look at their record, Rob, from Christmas, it's been quite incredible because, again, it was a team that didn't quite sort of have it together, certainly for the first period of the league, but now they've have. And I watched Russian a couple of weeks ago when I watched that Russian against Donkin combination game, and I just thought they were way off it. And there's some really good sort of players in there, but it's on the day, isn't it? And, Peel's performance last week, by all accounts, was outstanding against Donkin. And they are, to me, slight favourites in this. And I'm going to go for Peel to beat Russian. That'll be a surprise from some for me to say that. But at the moment, I feel that way.
Very well, and another one I wanted to ask you about was a Northern derby, in fact, and it is the defending Combination 1 champions, Ramsey, up against Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys. A bit of distance between these two sides in league terms, but this is a Northern derby. Things could change.
Well, it could, and again, when you look at sort of this competition, you have to qualify to certain games, and you must have played less than 10 for the first team, so it can take some key players that have been in that squad towards the end of the season out of it. So I'm not 100% sure, but I would say Ramsey Youth Centre have to start as slight favourites because they've got a good, what I call, two squads, first team and combination of young players, and the young players now are starting to come through for them. And I just think Ramsey Youth Centre will be too strong for Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys.
So just a reminder then of all the ties taking place in the Ascot Hotel Junior Cup first round proper on Sunday. Governors Athletic versus St Mary's, St John's United versus Douglas Royal, Ramsey versus Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys, Peel versus Russian United, Douglas and District versus Braddon, Pulrose United versus Ayr United, Michael United versus Corinthians, and Moran versus Laxey. Tony, before we move on, could you just give us a quick indication of where you think those other games might be going as well this weekend?
Thanks for that, Rob. Governors Athletic against St Mary's. I have to go with St Mary's. I think they'll be too strong. St John's against Douglas Royal. If I'm looking at an outside favourite, I'm going with St John's, and it showed last week against Douglas High School Old Boys. 7-1 winners, and well done to them. We've got Douglas and District against Braddon. Braddon's combination just missed out. Second, third, I think they are in the league, so I've got to go with Braddon. Pulrose against Ayr United. Ayr United are strong enough in that combination, I think, to get through. Michael against Corinthians. I've got to go for Corinthians. They've got a good, strong squad. And Moran against Laxey. I thought it was a superb win last week for Laxey, so I'm going to go for Laxey there to beat Moran.
And we do have a couple of games elsewhere on Sunday planned in. We'll turn our attention just quickly to the Canada Life Women's League. And before we get to the fixture taking place this weekend, I think it's only fair to say congratulations to Corinthians. They were crowned 2024-25 Canada Life Women's League champions last weekend with a 1-1 home draw against Peel. Yeah, it was a tight old game. Both goals scored. 1-1 it was in the first half. But in the second half, it was really cagey. Actually, Peel had a lot of the ball, but the chances for both sides were very limited. And, I just feel that Corinthians possibly have been the better out of the two teams this season. We had a meeting the other night regarding the women's football and, just seeing if we could sort of maybe change things round. And it looks like maybe the Floodlit Cup will go back to 11-a-side, and then we'll have some 7-a-side competitions in there as well. We'll wait to see, but hopefully it looks as if, maybe another side's going to come in, which is brilliant, but we'll let them work on that one. But Becky Corkish was missing last week, and she's a big player for Peel. And Corinthians have got some exciting young players in there, and they just couldn't break them down. So I think it was all based on that first game, near enough of the season, where Corinthians beat them 4-2, and that was the aggregate score that clinched them the league. Indeed, so that means it's a League and Cup double for Corinthians, so securing the Women's League title, but also winning the ECAP FA Cup, for the Women's ECAP FA Cup, I should say, a few weeks ago against Maloo. Elsewhere, though, Peel, they were crowned winners of the 11-a-side Floodlit Cup competition this season, and in the 7-a-side competition, there was a double success for Maloo this year as well. But the Canada Life Women's League this weekend, 2 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. Peel, as we've just mentioned, they're away at Douglas Royal.
Yeah, and again, Douglas Royal, credit to them because they came in, I wouldn't say last minute, but they've worked really hard this season to fulfil their fixtures, which is important. Well done to John Bonus, who's played a key part in it, because a change of manager halfway through the season is never good. And, when you look at the history of women's football, Rob, Douglas Royal are well up there with the amount of victories that they've had in leagues and cups. But I just think Peel will be too strong for them, and just get the season finished, and then we look on for next year.
And last but certainly not least, we'll take a quick look. The Masters FA Cup quarter-finals taking place. Doubleheader at the Bowl on Sunday. Yeah,
Onken against Union Mills. I don't know where this one's going to go. The reason why I say that, Union Mills have had some good wins lately, but Onken are the favourites, so I'm going to go for Onken just to sneak it. And Colby against Laxey. I have to say, Michael Fernandez last week, hurt himself in the Masters game against D&D, and we wish him well on that one. But I think Colby have sort of not played too much of late, and I think Colby have still got enough quality in there to take that result away from Laxey.
Manx Radio Sport.
Now moving on in what will be their penultimate game of the NWCFL Premier Division season, FC Isle of Man return to the Bowl tomorrow night, currently on one of the worst runs of form in the club's short history. Now more than 2 months on since their last win, and after another heavy home defeat last week, the Ravens play host to Litherland Remica on Saturday evening. Well, when asked ahead of the weekend what he and his squad can do to arrest this alarming slide down the table in recent times, FC Isle of Man manager Paul Jones was pretty firm in his response.
A lot of it is to, stop. I don't mean this maybe as harshly as it sounds, but stop wallowing around in self-pity and kind of sort yourselves out a little bit. And, that's all of us included. We're really disappointed that we've not met our season's aims. And we really felt we had a very good opportunity this season to still be pushing for that kind of 4th, 5th playoff place. And, that's not the case. And ever since that possibility's gone, the players have been really disappointed. And unfortunately, we may have kind of just taken our foot off the gas a little bit. And at this level of football, that can't happen. For a lot of this group, it's the first time they've had to deal with that, whether it's the expectation from ourselves and others, and also being in a position where you're in control and then things not quite going your way. We didn't have enough to stay on track this season, and that's the reason why everyone's kind of disappointed and a little bit low. But we've spoken a lot this week about, and to be fair, the players have as well, about making sure that they finish the season well, that they get themselves out of this little kind of slump.
You've spoken a fair bit there about the players, what they should and maybe shouldn't be doing on the pitch at the moment that might have contributed to these recent results. But, as the first team manager, what responsibility do you take for this particular run of form?
I think I've said in all my interviews it is my responsibility, Rob. I think the players are doing their absolute best, and just at moments the execution hasn't quite been to the standards that we know they're all capable of, and that's like, we're human. That's normal. Like that happens. In the same way, it's my job to help them maintain that belief and help them to maintain that confidence in themselves and each other. And maybe I've not done as good a job as I needed to through this stage of the season. Maybe there's things I could do tactically or selection wise, or changes within games. And I'm the first one to hold a mirror up to myself and look to see how I can help the players more than I am already. I think when I say we are feeling like that, there's maybe times in the games that I mentioned where I could have made a change, or I could have done something differently and helped the players a little bit more. So as I've said for a while, all of us haven't managed that expectation and managed these last few months of the season as well as we needed to. That's how it is. You can't turn the clock back, but what you can do is make sure that you learn from it and that you improve and you get better, and you make sure if you're in a similar situation next time, you do a better job.
To this weekend then, and Litherland Remica, they've had a good couple of results of the Bowl in the last couple of seasons, and I know you mentioned on a couple of occasions as well, you've been quite complimentary, if you like, of how challenging they can be to come up against. So what are the qualities you're going to have to be wary of from this Litherland side on Saturday?
Yeah, when we played them away from home, they were direct. They played all into the box early. They had a long throw. We had to be really resolute in our defending and winning first contact and having good clearances. And to be honest, in the first 10 minutes of that away game earlier on in the season, we didn't handle it particularly well. And then we had some really good play after going behind to go into the half-time at 2-1 up, and we're reasonably comfortable in the second half, other than maybe a 10-minute spell towards the end when it was a bit like the Alamo towards our goal. They've got a good goal scorer, clever forward players like a lot of teams have at this league, and they like to get the ball forward early and put you under a little bit of pressure. So we're going to need to really work hard to deal well with the forward balls they play and make sure that we get around the pitch and help each other out as much as we possibly can, and then play the football that we're trying to play to unlock them and create lots of goal scoring opportunities, which hopefully we can convert.
Taking a look at the squad, there were a couple of changes last week. You mentioned a few of them were enforced. What's the squad looking like this weekend?
We've got a few struggling with knocks at the moment. We're hopeful we can welcome Charlie back in and Kyle back in. Simmer is not available. Jack's not available. Dean Pennington's still serving his ban. So there'll be a couple of changes. We do need to see a different version of ourselves than we saw last Saturday, and that has to be through a change in mindset, and it also might be through to a change of personnel a little bit as well.
FC Isle of Man manager Paul Jones ahead of his side's tie in the NWCFL Premier Division against Litherland Remica tomorrow night at the Bowl at 6 p.m. And if you're not heading down to the Bowl in person, we've got you covered here on Manx Radio as ever. Live coverage, full live match commentary from myself and Tony Mepham on Manx Radio AM 1368 and DAB tomorrow evening. Well, Tony, just bring you back in for a few moments here. Paul Jones quite blunt in some of his remarks there. They can't be wallowing in self-pity, to use some of his words as well, if they're to end this season on a positive note. So how do they get out of that? Seems to be the million-dollar question at the moment, because there have been no answers in the last few weeks for them.
No, I think on commentary last week, Robert, we were struggling with the performance right the way through the team, to be fair. It just didn't, how can I say, gel together. And, it's a shame because very few chances to score a goal. Defensively, at times we looked a little bit under pressure. But in saying that, they had a right good go at us and we couldn't deal with it. But, just listening to Paul there, one or two sort of players come back in. And, I think I said to you, when you're looking at sort of players last week who were missing, who will probably start, is like Charlie Higgins, you've got Dean Pinnington, you've also got Jack McVeigh, it was and Kyle Watson. It was a real problem for them, and the players that came in, I'm not saying it was their fault, it wasn't. It was just collectively the team just didn't seem to be able to get it to play like a unit.
And finally, Tony, just before we let you go, going to Little and Remica side this weekend, they've had two very good results on their last two visits to the Bowl. The latest of those was a commanding 3-0 win last season as well. So they may be below FC Isle of Man in the table, and Little and Remica also struggling to try and get wins on the board at the moment, but they've already shown their worth here at the Bowl.
Yeah, well, he have, and Paul Jones will have done his homework on that one, looked at the players that are playing at the moment and who's scoring the goals, who's causing the problems. And let's just hope that, there's two more games to go, one on Easter Saturday as well. But it's key that they finish on a good note. It just gives everyone a little bit of hope and desire, because for the last 2 years now, at the halfway stage, they've looked really good, and you think there's a chance here of getting into the playoffs. And then it all sort of disappears. And, that's whether that's a mental thing or whether it's just, players available or just form from players. But we've got to try and get out of that rut, because it'd be great to see them, sort of push on next season and see if they can get promoted.
Tony Mepham, thank you very much, as always. And just a bit of news that's come into us as well. A couple of postponements, walkovers. Royals v Peel in the Women's League is now off on Sunday. Peel awarded the win. Michael United Corinthians off in the Cup as well on Sunday. We'll be taking a look at the Manx Rally. That's up next.
Manx Radio Sport.
Welcome back to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio, turning our attention to matters in terms of four-wheeled racing. And in case you haven't noticed, on this beautiful day here on the Isle of Man, day one of the 2025 Manx Rally has been taking place across Manx shores. Crews from across the world, the UK, and of course here on Ireland, battling their way through the iconic stages here right through until Saturday evening. Well, keeping a close eye on everything so far that's been taking place today, and having a look at what's in store to come tomorrow, is Chris Boyde, who's down on the ground for us today after what's been, I'm sure, a very busy day indeed. Chris, very good evening. Got to start off first of all. For those who haven't been able to catch up yet, can you tell us what's been going on so far today on day one?
Yeah, we're here at the sun-kissed TT Grandstand here on Douglas, ready for the evening loop of this Manx National Rally, which would normally be the opening loop. It normally starts on Friday tea time. The last couple of years, they've moved it to Friday daytime. A bigger change this year would move forward a whole month from early May to early April, and moved into what we thought would be inclement weather, but my word, have we caught the weather all right. The crews have been out early this morning and this afternoon completing a 5-stage loop. At the end of that, we have Gary Jennings and Rory Kennedy and Donny Gall leading the way in their Ford Fiesta by just 4 seconds from Sam Tousell and Max Friesman, the Jersey driver. Then Neil Roskell with our own Rob Fagg in the passenger seat. They are lying in third place, and they're only another 0.3 of a second down on the rally leader, Gary Jennings. Gary is with me right now. This was a very last-minute decision to come here after winning the Sperrins Rally in the Northern Ireland Championship last weekend. So far, all going well.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic morning. Where would nicer to be than Isle of Man when there's weather like this? There's not a cloud in that sky. We've had a good opening 5 stages, but there's a lot to come yet.
There is indeed. What was the story behind getting here? Because apparently this plan only came into fruition on about Monday.
Yeah, Monday. Yeah, it was. We got this brand new car from M-Sport, and we had won a rally in Ireland, and then Greylow International from Ireland here and WS Transportation give us a phone call on Monday to see where we come, and they put everything into place, and a big thank you to them, and we're here and we're enjoying ourselves.
And this is all really about getting more mileage under your belt before the Circuit of Ireland rally next weekend.
That's right. An intention of doing very little rallies this year, so if everything goes to plan this weekend, it'll be 3 in 3 weekends. But look, yeah, it's all about seat time, bit of experience. I had very little experience here, but Rory Kennedy, my navigator, has. I found it very difficult in the first three, but once we got into the mountains, we're okay. But tonight will be a different kettle of fish. We're bolting on lights here now, so yeah, it'll be an interesting evening.
Yeah, the foot went down on those final two stages this morning to grab the lead from Sam Tousell. You said to me you like the bumpy stages.
Yeah, we like the mountain. No point putting me out on these big white promenades with the white lines. I'm not used to them in Ireland, so go back up into the mountains, we're okay. But yeah, unfortunately, I think when these boys go into the mountains, they know where we're going. But I love the bumps, and yeah, I think if anybody's going out spectating tonight, it'll be very interesting over these bumpy roads in the mountains.
We're not sure if you'll get any dark stages because you're due back here sort of not long after 9 o'clock, and it was light till just after 9 last night, so maybe you get through without. But you're happy enough with the dark stages?
I haven't driven the dark in years, but yeah, with all lamp pods on, I think the car looks very, very mean with these lamp pods on. So I think we'll have to not damage the lights either on these chicanes on the first couple before, in case we do need them tonight. But look, that's all. It'll be the same for everybody, and hopefully it'll just stay the guess and we'll get through.
Well, thanks for coming, and have a great run tonight.
Thank you.
There's Rob Fagg as well, who I thought just walking past, and top three going into this evening's loop. And as we say, the rally's only just normally starting at the evening loop. This is where it normally starts. So effectively, 4.3 seconds is absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it is, and obviously it's very close throughout the whole, probably the top 10. So we're just going to go out, do what we've done this morning, our own game, and see where we end up at the end of the day. So tomorrow's the end of another long day. So we just need to get through, keep it clean as we've done, and just keep at it and try and close this gap to Gary because he's going well.
He is indeed. You had a very small issue on the shakedown stage, but you managed to get that sorted before the rally started proper.
Yeah, we broke a roll bar arm, so luckily we found that. Well, luckily it broke there and not on the stages, but yeah, we got that sorted. Made a few changes for this loop because we felt, we could make some improvements on the car, so hopefully that is going to help and we can find some more time in there. But, we're enjoying it. As Gary said, great to rally on the Isle of Man this weather and just want to get going again now, so fingers crossed we have a good one tonight.
It's been a bit of a layoff since about 1:30, 2 o'clock when you got back here. Neil was saying to me just before, he's got a lot more confidence these days in the Baldwin stages where it takes absolute maximum commitment.
Yeah, he has, and obviously we were in Cork a few weeks ago, and those stages were really fast and required commitment, and Neil's writing his own notes and putting a lot of effort and time into them, so we're getting the benefit of them, and it's really good. So I have to say he's driving well, everything's working at the moment. Hopefully the change on the car now will just close that gap to the boys.
Thanks very much for your time. We'll leave you to go and get ready because they're due to book out to start this evening leg in 25 minutes or so, 18:35. They are due to set off. Let's go and see if we can find Steve Colley, who is our leading local, with Joe Dooley in the Mitsubishi Evo, and of course he has disappeared. So let's run you down the top 10 as we have it and see if he pops up as we go through. Gary Jennings and Rory Kennedy then. It's an all-Ford Fiesta Rally 2 top 4. They lead the way by just 4 seconds from Sam Tousell and Max Freeman in a similar Fiesta. Then we've just spoken to Rob Fagg. Him and Neil Roskell are in third place, only 0.3 of a second down on Sam Tousell. David Wright and Jane Nichol, who have led here in the past, they are a further 4.7 seconds down on Roskell and Fagg in fourth. Then Marty Toner and Argan Gallagher, they are the first of the leading two-wheel drive crews. They're in fifth overall in the Proton Satria, and they're only 1.4 seconds down on David Wright. It's very, very tight in the leaderboard. The people we were watching out for, pre-event favourites, Jason Pritchard and Phil Clark, who've led the rally, won the rally 5 times and are bidding to become the outrights record holders on 6. They're currently tied with Kenny McKinstry on 5 wins. Pritchard and Phil Clark lie in 6th. They had a problem with a pop-up valve on the opening stage on the old Castletown road this morning. It kept popping off inside the engine bay and popping back on. 13 times, Jason told me, it popped off in that stage, and that's left them down in 6th place. But much of their favourite terrain is to come tonight. They are exceptionally rapid in the Baldwin stages, in particular in a brand new Toyota GR Yaris. And again, it's about mileage for them. They've only done 1 rally before coming here, so it is all about getting mileage for them. In 7th place are Mark Pelly and Will Atkins, who are one of the leading contenders in the Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championships. They are in the VW Polo. They were held up a little bit this morning. They were delayed by, they caught another competitor in the double run stage down at Fulvage. And I think headed across them sometime, only 4 or 5 seconds. We think another former winner from back in 2018, Hugh Hunter, who had Rob Fagg with him on the notes on that occasion. He's got Andy Marchbank with him there at the moment in the Rally 2. They are lying in 8th place. In 9th place is Irish crew, Alice Nimmer and Barry McCarney. And in 10th place, running out the top 10, another Irish crew, Aaron McLaughlin and Darren Curran. Aaron's been in the top 4 over here before. We still don't have Steve Colley back here. I'm not sure where he's gone, but let's just run you through the locals, the leading local positions. In 21st after the opening leg, R.T. Colley and Joe Dooley. The Mitsubishi Evo 9 crew there in 21st place overall. In 25th overall, Max Bradshaw and Liam Whiteley in a similar Evo 9. And we've got Kirsty Duke in 24th place. She is co-driving for John Stone, a UK driver, in a Polo R5 there in 24th. In 26th, another Evo 9, John Tier and Robert Turt. And they are going very nicely. It's John's first time really on closed roads in the Evo 9. So he's going well. In 31st place, Gary Lease and Sarah Cool in a Skoda Fabia. They have stiffened the suspension because they were struggling a little bit this morning. And then in 42nd, the leading of the two-wheel drive crews are Max Murray, or the local two-wheel drive crews. So here's Max Murray and Matty Owen in Ipswich. So still no sign of Mr. Colley, even though I did tell him I'd be coming to speak to him. So best laid plans and all that. Let's have a look at where the stages are headed to tonight. The first stage tonight, as they leave here, will be Kerristal 2, which is Kerristal out to Port Sodrick, then comes up onto the Old Castletown Road and runs down the extent of that to Blackboard. The leading crews due onto that stage at 7:05. Then we head down to the double run at Balladool, which starts at Kenstraw below Colby, heads down to the Shore Hotel at Gansey, runs right along the Gansey front and into Poolvaish, or Balladool as it's known, out of there through Ballacagan on the 700 course, down into the 700 clubhouse triangle that they use as the pre-start area for the 700, and actually finishes coming up to the 700 start line from the wrong direction. The stop line is right on the 700 start finish line. That leading crews due in start at 7:33, and again just before 8 o'clock, 7:58. Then they go out onto the longest stage of the rally at Ellerslie, 15.87 miles, and this one is it's extensive, this one. See if we can find out where the route is for this one, because it goes quite a long way. If I can get the details. It's got Braid. It starts on the Mount Murray back road, goes down into Braid, goes out through Mullinaraga, up to St Mark's, out to Erie, round Archalligan, then comes back to Garth, down to St Runas and down to Ellerslie, and that is 15.87 miles. And then the crews head on to the Baldwin stage, which we've already been talking about tonight. It will be. We're not sure it'll be held in darkness or whether or not they will get through it in light. The leading crews due on it just after 9 o'clock, but it starts just above Glenvine, goes up onto the Glenvine back road, if you like, at Eriton, out to Mount Rule, then goes up to West Baldwin, all the way up to Ingerbreck House, at the Ingerbreck Reservoir, comes back up to St Luke's, down Elgar, out through East Baldwin to the famous spectator point at Ballarote's Hairpin and Abbeyland's Jump to finish at Cronk-Namona. And there's no sign still of Steve Colley, so we're going to speak to Joe Dooley instead. Leading locals after that opening leg. How was it?
It was good, yeah. The weather conditions helped. It's a bit hot out there, but it's great to see everybody out. All the crews, everyone's running well, enjoying it.
You're up against it really in the Evo against all these World Rally 2 and R5 cars. It really is old technology now.
It is, the cars are, nearly 20-year-old, so to be pushing in the top 20 is incredible, really, with these boys and the R5s and the machinery and the price of them as well. It's good. It's good to be where we are.
That and the fact that these guys are in these cars pretty much every week, one way or another, and Steve Harvey gets to drive this.
It is, yeah. It's been over 5 years since I've been in the nav seat as well, so it's been a long time. So it's good to get back out.
Very, very dry out there. Very, very hot pace. Was it hard getting readjusted to it all this morning?
There's no time to readjust really. You've just got to get back into it at the pace we're at. Really, it's so grippy. Weather conditions are perfect, so we just got to go out and do our best. Continue to what we're doing.
Absolutely. Well, there we are. Hopefully you're all set for a good evening.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
There we are. I think, Rob, no time to Steve Colley, unfortunately, so we'll just have to give that one a miss. But hopefully that runs us through where we're up to on this ProFlex Manx Rally. We're barely started, actually. We've done 22 stage miles out of 120, so there is an awful long way to go across tonight and the rest of tomorrow.
Excellent, Chris. Comprehensive as always. Thank you so much. And we will be catching up with Chris Boyde with updates on Saturday Live tomorrow and also on the full-time show and Saturday Sport Classified on Manx AM 1368 tomorrow evening. Details around the Manx Rally on manxautosport.org. And also, just quickly before we move things on as well, there was an appeal put out just before we came on air. Manx Autosport desperate for marshals going into tomorrow as well. Details are available over on the Manx Autosport social media channels. Going to be taking Taking a look now at a busy weekend for rugby and 2 finals across the water and an Old Firm coming up on Manx shores as well on Saturday. We'll be back with that in just a few moments' time.
Manx Radio Sport.
Well, finally tonight here on Friday Sport Preview, we're going to be turning our attention to rugby. 2 big games across the water for 2 of the island sides this weekend, searching for silverware in the Cheshire competitions. Elsewhere here on Ireland, perhaps just as big a game, if not more so, in terms of local rugby. The Old Firm returns over at Ballafletcher on Saturday afternoon. To go through it with us, as always, is our rugby correspondent Dave Christian. Dave, we're going to turn our attention first of all to the Cheshire competitions this weekend. Both the Cheshire Vars and Cheshire Bowl competitions taking place. Ramsey and Southern Nomads involved in the respective finals. Let's turn our attention first. Both these games being played in Chester, of course, as well. It's worth pointing out this Saturday. Southern Nomads, they're going to be coming up against Port Sunlight in the Cheshire Bowl final. How do you assess Nomads' chances in this one?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because Nomads haven't really played that many games this season. Sunlight aren't in the English Clubs Championship window, so it's awkward, I guess, to keep tabs on their progress. What we've got to remember is the competition was played in a league format. Southern Nomads, Port Sunlight, Aldershire and Western Vikings. Southern Nomads qualified for the final by winning the pool 3 out of 3, and that included a win at Port Sunlight. It was a tight one, don't get me wrong, 4-36 or something like that, which means we should have a belting final tomorrow here at Chester. 12:30 kickoff for that one, assuming the Manannan Fastcraft sails on time. And, I've had a look at the Nomads team sheet this afternoon. They have got all their big guns lined up. The halfbacks that haven't necessarily appeared all on a regular basis this season, Mark Young and George Collister, 9 and 10 respectively. Finn McGregor's going to partner Brereton in an exciting centre partnership. And on the bench, they've got Will Tazier, who's arguably one of their better players. So Nomad's got everybody there. Tony Quinn wide on the wing. The brothers, one at 14, one at 15. Everybody who needs to be there is there. I'm not certain on the relative strengths of Port Sunlight's side. They haven't been doing particularly in their dish league over here. They're not in the full English Club Championship like Douglas and Vagabonds are, but they're sort of mid-table, and they are playing in a league that's got a lot of familiar names in it as well, who have been involved in the English Clubs Championship before. So on paper, I'm going to say, and probably everybody at Ramsey's going to hate me for it, but I'm going to say this is probably the better chance of Cheshire's success this week. It is the Cheshire Bowl they'll be playing for. Ramsey are the current plate holders, but the Cheshire Bowl almost one step down at. And that's the curtain raiser at Chester Rugby Club for the Vars final, which will be Ramsey and New Brighton. I think the Nomads game's at 12:30, allowing for the game to be played in extra time. The Ramsey game kickoff being confirmed today as 3 o'clock. Ramsey played in the same basis as Nomads to qualify for the Cheshire final. It was on a league basis. The league involved New Brighton, Prenton and Wallasey. Ramsey were 2 out of 3 in that one. Their only defeat was against New Brighton. It was quite a big one by comparison. I think 32-17 there and thereabouts. But the important thing to remember about that game was it was 7-7 at half-time. New Brighton probed a little bit differently in the second half, found some gaps in the Ramsey defence. Ramsey were unable to come back for it. That's a lesson learnt. Ramsey have got a strong squad out. Pretty much everybody who needs to be there is going to be there. Perhaps they're missing maybe Eddie Lord and Connor Cracknell. Eddie's carrying an injury. Connor's not available to travel. But that said, you've got your team, your best team on the day. Ramsey are putting theirs out. Ben Gelling's going to come in to firm up the second row. Liam McVicker is going to partner him with Neil Harmer in at prop. They've only got the opportunity to put Leo McVicker in at prop after Neil's had a burst for half an hour or so. And they've still got Michael Flint on the bench just in case. The other change around at Ramsey is the scrum half change. Freddie Corlett, who would normally be expected to start at 9, he's going to go to the bench. and Josh Leese will start at 9. And the simple reason for that is Mr. Caller is a talented young man and he can play multiple positions. So on the bench, he gives them a degree of cover all through the back line and in the back row of the scrummage. So it's unfortunate he doesn't get his start. However, there's a reason for that. And I think if anybody around the early 90s remembers Austin Healy playing professional rugby for Leicester in England, Austin Healy suffered exactly the same fate. Utility player always gets started on the bench. Still looking forward to it. They think they've got takes and they've picked up some extra knowledge in that defeat at New Brighton earlier on in the season. But I think on paper, New Brighton are playing in a league that's 2 divisions above Vagabonds, so it is a massive step up in playing level. They're not going so well in that league, don't get me wrong. They've played 22 and they have 7 or 8 wins, but that's not going to put Ramsey off. They're going to go for it. And it is a final. You only get one shot at it, and Cup rugby, anything could happen. It's also being played on the artificial grass pitch at Chester, and that's going to be different from the Isle of Man sides because they don't get to see that very often. So everyone has to adjust. Who adjusts quickest is normally the team that's going to win.
Okay, well, Dave, we've got around 2.5 minutes by my calculations here before we have to wrap things up. We have to give a mention to what's going on in the Manx Cup this weekend. The Old Firm taking place at Ballyfletcher between Vagabonds and Douglas.
Absolutely, Robin. I'm not going to be disrespectful to anybody in the Manx Cup competition, but Douglas are playing at level 6 in the English Clubs Championship. That's a massive step up for anybody, and they are going to win the Manx Cup this year. That is beyond doubt. However, Coach Phil Kringle's been making things a little bit interesting. They played Southern Nomads, and Phil mixed up his team selection a little bit, and he's done the same tomorrow. He's going to start his backup scrum half, Brendan Kelly, is going to start at 9 and captain the side. His first choice scrum half is going to play in the centres. He's got 50-year-old Mark Shutland on one wing. These are interesting team selections and are showing that Phil, despite Douglas's clear dominance and the surefire fact that they're going to win this cup, he's trying to play fair to the... And, of course, he's got to have one eye on player safety as well. The players at that far are faster, strong, and hit much harder. And he's got to try and take the sting out of that without actually getting the players to take their foot off the gas. Because if you go into a game half-cocked and trying to hold back a little bit, that's when people do get injured. So great work by Douglas as a club and Phil Kringle for his selection tomorrow. Vagabonds, I haven't seen their team news yet. They've come off the back of a very hard season. This will be an important game for them because it is against Douglas. And that rivalry, Douglas and Vagabonds, has been going on pretty much since the 1960s. It's going to be Douglas's day. I can't see any other result for it. But the crowd at Ballyfletcher will hopefully be thoroughly entertained by it all. And before we go, we have got some other action on. There's a tour game at Ramsey. Western Vikings play Waterloo. That's 3 o'clock at the Mirrock Park. And there's a whole host of junior games going on. Birkenhead Park are on tour. They're playing Southern Nomads and Ramsey Saturday and Sunday. Under 12, under 13, under 14. It's a bumper weekend for rugby, whether you're in Chester, Ballyfletcher, Mirrock Park, or the Field of Dreams down at Port Erin.
Dave Christian, thank you so much. Our rugby correspondent Dave Christian there. He'll be out covering that big Cheshire competition doubleheader in Chester this weekend. First off in that one, 12:30 kickoff, Southern Nomads take on Port Sunlight in the final of the Cheshire Bowl. And then, as we've just heard from Dave, confirmed 3 p.m. kickoff, Ramsey taking on New Brighton in the Cheshire Vars final. Of course, that big Old Firm clash in the Manx Cup tomorrow afternoon between Vagabonds and Douglas at Ballyfletcher, kickoff at 2:15 p.m. there. That's all about time we have on Friday Sport Preview this week. Many thanks to my guests, as always. They are Tony Mepham, Paul Jones, Chris Boyde and Dave Christian this week. And don't forget as well, if you want to catch up on any of the details on the sporting action that's been taking place throughout the week, coming up this weekend and more besides, head on over to the Isle of Man Sports Hub at manxradio.com. Not just news there, but of course on the Manx Radio website, full access to the Manx Radio Sportscast for in-depth features and more. In the meantime, though, all that remains for me to say this evening is have yourself a wonderful Friday and a wonderful weekend as well. But from us, until next time, it is bye for now.
Manx Radio Sport.